Knowing what kind of soil you've got makes a big difference in what you can plant. Today I'm joined by Liz Pfluger from Green and Growing in Pflugerville, who spotlights a few native plants geared for our region, especially my favorite, the Blackland Prairie. Liz, it's wonderful to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here again.
Thank you so much for coming. We got a lot of wonderful plants to talk about, but first, forgive me, but I have to ask you about, you're in Pflugerville, your last name's Pfluger. Is there a connection?
There is a connection. So my family was early settlers in the area, and we were very centrally located, the family farm, so they just sort of built the city around us.
Ah, so you are the original native Pflugervillian, I guess.
Yes.
What does that mean for plants? What are the soil types that we're talking about?
Generally in our area, especially in the Pflugerville area east of 35, you're going to be in that heavy black clay. Mm-hmm. And it's very different from the rockier, more caliche soils that you're going to see in the escarpment area, which is where a lot of natives you see commonly in the industry are coming out of. And those plants don't always, though they often do, thrive in our black clay soil. Drainage tends to be an issue with us. We also tend to be a little rainier and wetter, and we hold that moisture longer. Mm-hmm. And plants that can take those conditions are really critical for success with natives in our area.
There are some plants from the Edwards Plateau that come over because we're essentially in an ecotone, right, where the convergence, those Blackland Prairie and that plateau are coming head to head. So we do have some variability that perhaps a distinct zone might not.
Yeah, I think that people sometimes get too idea that these are like these firm barriers, and they're really malleable. And then you have plants that go across the whole state, like blanket flower, or Mexican hats, a lot of different grasses. So, and you have plants like the purple skullcap that is often thought of as more of an Edwards Plateau plant, but you do see it transitioning into our area, especially in slopey areas.
So the good news is if you live here, you got a lot to work with.
A lot of material, which is great. I have such a variety in my yard, and I think people can have more variety in their yards too.
Okay, let's start here with this beautiful flower, which is all over our roadsides at the moment, Indian blanket flower. Oh,
that is one of my absolute favorites. I think it is widely underutilized in yards. You see it on the roadsides, and you should be putting it in your beds. It is a perennial. It also does reseed and spread itself through the yard, which I think of as free plants.
Yes.
In not a problematic way. It's very easy to remove if it's somewhere you don't like it. It is an absolute favorite of pollinators, and it will bloom very heavily in the spring, early summer. With a little irrigation, you can push that through the summer well into fall. Now, young plants that you've transferred in, of course, you're going to have to water establish. Once they're well established, it is one of the most drought-tolerant plants you can grow. In my yard, they're only getting a few irrigations in the middle of summer, and that's just to keep it kind of looking how my neighbors would like my yard to look.
I see a number of grasses here which sort of group, but I think we've got big bluestem, we've got blue grama, we've got little bluestem, and we've got bushy bluestem. So let's go through those. Are those... let's start with big blue. Yeah,
big blue is a plant that you're going to see a lot for the Blackland Prairies, but where you really see it is more eastern Blackland Prairies. As we head west into our area, its water needs aren't always met by our rainfall.
Right.
And I think that's another thing you have to think about is these soil conditions are one thing, but also the climate affects things.
Sure.
I think the big bluestem is a beautiful grass. It's not my absolute favorite for the landscape because it can be tricky in our area.
And again, with that, shade?
Sun. For me, I think it's best in the sun.
I think that's going to be a common answer. Let's move on to little bluestem. What about that? This is one of my favorites.
I love little bluestem. I think it's everyone's favorite who likes native grasses.
All the plant nerds.
And we all like it. It has beautiful color, that kind of silvery blue spring color. It gets these wonderful brown plumes in the fall. It gets that coppery red winter color. So it has great interest through a lot of seasons. Nice structure, nice smaller grass. I think it looks wonderful planted in groupings, and that's really how it looks in the wild, and it really looks at its best in our yards too.
Both of these are big supporters of pollinators as well, right?
Yes.
Everybody thinks flowers.
Everyone thinks flowers, but grasses, especially native grasses, are so important for pollinators. They also provide a lot of winter shelter sites as well. And they're a really important part when you're putting pollinator plants in your yard. Incorporating native grasses is so critical.
And bird nesting material, right?
Yes. I mean, birds, yeah, I love my birds. And that's also with seeds too. And I love watching my finches harvest, especially the turkey feed on the giant. They love it.
And then if you have those growing, those are later successional prairie species, so that means you've got really healthy soil as well, correct?
Yes, it is a sign of good soil because you're going to see the bigger the grass is, generally the deeper the soil and the better condition that soil's in. Your smaller grasses tend to go in areas with thinner, poorer soils.
Okay, and the other two grasses, we've got sort of polar opposites of the moisture level. We've got blue grama and bushy bluestem. Why do you have those out here?
I have them out here because, well, blue grama, I think we all know, it is a really widespread grass, and it is a fantastic grass. I love it in big mass plantings. I love to use it as a low ground cover, like in what a lot of people like to call the hell strip. And it has these absolutely adorable little seed pods that are so cute. They start in early summer, late spring, and they just look great. It's very soft and fluffy, very drought tolerant.
Yes.
Very good with hot sun, very good with reflected heat, which isn't always the case with grasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
bushy blue.
my polar opposite, and a plant that I brought in because people don't know what it is.
Right.
And yet it's a very common plant in my area, and it meets a need that we have, which is people who have areas with really poor drainage that stay wet or stay very seasonally wet.
Yes.
This grass grows in those areas. You're going to see it in river bottoms and creek bottoms and areas like that. Those low-lying water collecting areas, I see it a lot in suburban yards where they have strips between the houses that are low that just hold moisture. This grass will live there, colonize there, bring in a ton of wildlife, and it is absolutely beautiful in the fall and winter.
Well, let's quickly go through some of our the other plants we've got here. I know we've got a skullcap that you mentioned earlier.
We do have a skullcap, and that one is one that people really think of as being an escarpment plant, but I see it a lot in the Pflugerville area. I used to see it a lot more as development's kind of disappeared out. That is a less commonly seen. Pink skullcap, I think, is a skullcap most people think of. This skullcap is going to be a little taller. It's going to be about 18 inches tall. Makes a really nice, neat mound. Those beautiful purple flowers in the spring and summer. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it does reseed itself.
And then what about Artemisia over there?
Oh, well, that is one of my favorite plants that can be sort of a little bit of too good of a grower in the garden. If you like your plants to stay very neatly in place, you may want to put it somewhere confined, where like sidewalks or something like that.
Okay.
But if you're like me and you just are like, that's a free plant, I just let it loose. I love that silver color running between my perennials. It covers up my early spring flowering perennials as they're going out. It's really coming in. And that also is going to give you some evergreen structure through most winters with that silver color, which is nice.
And then another structural plant you've got is the coralberry, correct?
Oh, yeah. I love coralberry. If you've talked to me at the nursery about shade, I've probably recommended coralberry.
Okay.
That is a plant that is a shade plant for our area, which we don't have a ton of in the Blacklands because we're more of a grassland.
Right.
But this, I don't think of it as a single solitary shrub. I really think of it as a tall ground cover because it likes to spread itself out. And using it in large amounts in banks and sweeps, it looks really lush, really glamorous, and really beautiful.
And it has nice, I mean, in the winter too, when it sets those berries, so it's not just a spring or growing season. In the winter, it just sets off.
Those great little magenta berries. And also for pollinators, the little flowers in the summer are really popular. You probably won't notice them, but your little native pollinators will absolutely adore them.
Really quickly,
Yeah.
last two we've got is Carolina buckthorn, and we've got some elbow bush for more of our structural plants.
Elbow bush, one of my favorites, huge shrub. People looking for larger shrubs, even up to privacy, this is a really cool option. Elbow bush is named, the leaves, the branches come and turn on joints. And it ends up creating this really, you can't see on this young plant, but ends up creating this fabulous weeping effect. The foliage is really soft and green and stays really green. Even in hot, dry summers, elbow bush is normally looking very fresh, which I really like. The way it looks in the landscape is beautiful. It looks gorgeous combined with grasses, and it's a great little plant. It can take some shade too.
Yeah, I've noticed it under some oaks.
You
and
normally
whatnot,
see it kind of growing on wood edges is where I find it.
Okay, and our last one, the Carolina buckthorn.
Carolina buckthorn, wildly underplanted little native tree. I think of it as really being an understory tree. It needs some shade, especially from hot afternoon sun. The shape of it is one of my favorite things. They have a very open, branching shape, kind of reminiscent of the eastern dogwood to me. Cute little bloomers, great little berries, really pretty little tree.
Well, Liz, thank you so much. You got to come back because we could stay here for hours chatting about this stuff. But thank you so much for sharing your passion for these natives and helping people understand how they can better utilize them in your yard.
Great. Thank you for having me.